There are so many mistakes being made with ADA website compliance and accessibility. I've made a top 15 list. Now, what's important to keep in mind is that this is a loose list because different entities are making different mistakes. So, for example, a small local restaurant is making different mistakes versus a multinational corporation. So, with that said, let's go down the document. Number one is waiting until you're sued. I see this all the time. In fact, it's more often that someone approaches me after they've been sued than before. So you want to be proactive, but many people do not learn about accessibility or are not proactive or don't take it serious until they've been sued. Number two, not researching. Um, Even if you don't want to put in the requisite time to learn about ADA website compliance and how it applies to your specific situation, just hire a consultant for an hour. Doing so can save you money and time and energy in not taking the wrong course of action and then having to go back, retrace, and start over again. Number three, not paying attention to details. So even if you go on the right path, if you do not take this seriously and if you do not pay attention to detail, you could very well find yourself receiving a demand letter or learning about a complaint filed against you in court, and then not having an accessible digital experience. You must pay attention to detail as you are taking the right course of action. Number four, installing overlay widgets. We have seen overlay widgets. They've been very successful, and despite the fact that they do not prevent litigation, despite the fact that they do not make a website accessible, many people choose this route, and it's the wrong route. And we can empirically show that overlay widgets do not stop litigation. So keep this in mind. I know that you will see the bold claims, but understand that these are lies. Number five, thinking that scans are ADA compliance checkers. Scans are very helpful tools, but they are limited. They are not indicative of ADA compliance in any way. So while scans are important, I highly recommend making sure that any errors that are showing up on scans, you account for them and resolve as many are that are accurate. Keep in mind that they are not conclusive. Number six, not prioritizing accessibility issues. There is no reason to go through accessibility in a way that does not account for the most commonly litigated claims. So make sure that any accessibility issues you are taking care of, you are doing so in a strategic, prioritized fashion where you are resolving those accessibility issues that are commonly claimed in demand letters and or complaints filed in court. Number seven, equating services one to one. I know that many people are looking at the price tag and they are determining what provider to go with based on that final price. The problem is that services vary in quality and some services are really bad. So you don't want to take the price of an audit from one competitor or one provider and then compare it to the price of another. You have to keep in mind the reputability, the quality of work, your comfort level with that provider. Price should not be your determining factor because if it is, you will inevitably end up with on average, the lower quality of services. Number eight, not taking immediate action on audits. So if you do not, an audit is fine, but many people fall under, they fall into a lull after they've received an audit because they think they have done something with accessibility. I think there's this switch where people think that they have an audit, they're working on accessibility, they don't need to do anything else, or they can lose steam. That is not the case. An audit doesn't actually do anything to make your website accessible. It only helps you find the issues. You still have to resolve those issues. So making sure that you start work immediately on an audit is the right course of action. And if you don't, then the audit will lose freshness, especially as more changes are made to the website, more code updates are made, new content is added. It's going to change the website and then it's going to skew the audit results and the audit won't be as good. Number nine, not investing in training for your digital team. If your team does not learn about accessibility, well, you will continually introduce accessibility issues into your digital assets. You must train your team on accessibility so that sourcing out to third parties is not continual course of action. That is going to cost a lot of money, and it is also that you will also constantly be behind with accessibility because your team is never integrating accessibility into your processes. Number 10, listening to marketers on accessibility. If you search for YouTube right now, you can find any number of marketers telling you any number of wrong things about accessibility. Of course, there are some marketers that understand accessibility, but for the most part, they do not. For the most part, they tell you to buy overlay widgets and then they take an affiliate commission on those sales. Number 11, falling for sales pitches. Make sure you understand what you need versus what you are being sold. There are many unnecessary purchases. There are many premium scans and reports that are purchased and are completely unnecessary, along with monitoring. So make sure that you understand what you need. And this is part of where an accessibility consultant can come into play. They can help you on the right path, understand what you need for your specific situation. And as I said earlier, this is going to vary based upon who you are. A solo entrepreneur or a sole proprietor is going to be looking for different things than a large company. So keep that in mind. Number 12, changing the website during the audit. I mentioned this earlier, but it's worth mentioning again. If you change a website during an audit, you still may have accessibility issues, and the audit won't have those in the report because your website did not have those at the time the audit was conducted. Number 13, trying to beat the system. I've also alluded to this earlier. So if you are going to Fiverr and looking for ADA compliance services, you can find these cheaper than you can from most traditional providers. But if you try to beat the system, what will very likely happen is you will cost yourself. You will end up paying for that reduced price, and in the end, you will only have wasted the time necessary to work with that Fiverr provider, and then you will have paid out maybe $500 or whatever the Fiverr gig costs, and you will have to start over again. Number 14, thinking you fall under an exception. So many people think that because they have fewer than 15 employees, the ADA does not apply to you. That's not true. The ADA, what you are thinking of is ADA Title 1. Many people have confused Title 1 and they don't understand that there's also Title 3. And I think in part this is because at one time there was a Google snippet that showed the ADA, to fall under the ADA, you needed 15 or more employees. This is Title 1. You need to look at Title III and determine whether or not you are a place of public accommodation, and whether you technically are or are not. It can likely be argued that you are. So exceptions usually cause people to have this false sense of security, where they don't actually fall under an exception, or they practically don't fall under an exception. Keep in mind that all it takes is a plaintiff's lawyer deciding to initiate litigation, and then you will be immersed in litigation. And even if you are technically right to make that technical argument, it will take you several thousands of dollars. Number 15, listening to lawyers on website accessibility. There are many lawyers, defense attorneys, who think they understand accessibility. More often than not, they do not understand, and they will offer audit packages, which are merely 2 or 3 scans packaged together in a report. You can get these for free. The lawyers think they've found the way and they know exactly what they're doing. I can promise you, most of the lawyers that are offering these audit packages do not know what they're doing, especially if you can get these audit packages for a fairly inexpensive amount. So say like $1,500. Do not listen to lawyers. If you do listen to lawyers, again, go back to that accessibility consultant. It could save you on this service, where the lawyers are looking to sell you something additional, but they don't really understand what they're doing. And so these are the common mistakes that I see being made over and over again. I offer many products and services to help align you with what exactly you need in an efficient and an effective manner. So there are so many great offerings from digital accessibility providers, but what you really need is something that is efficient and effective. So efficient could mean it costs less and saves you time, and effective means you actually do improve the accessibility of your website and reduce the risk of litigation. So that's really what your offer, and you want to avoid these mistakes because I've seen time and time again, people have to start over after they start. So even if you choose a cheap path where you think you are saving money and saving time to begin with, inevitably what happens is someone needs to start over because they find out they are still at risk of litigation and they've not actually furthered accessibility to the extent that they were under the impression they did.